Okay, we're going to call the select board meeting to order for today's Thursday, February 20th. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sorry. It's okay. Well, first thing we have on our agenda, actually, the only thing we have on our agenda this evening is our interview for the town administrator position. So, that said, we'll get right into it.
Okay.
Let's tell us about yourself. Well, let me tell you, my name's Glenn Sexton. I'm one of the select board members.
I'm Dave Labonte, also select board member, obviously.
And one of our select board members is not here this evening, Crystal Dufresne. She's on vacation, but I'm sure she'll watch the film on this, and she has asked us to ask some questions on her behalf as well.
Okay.
All right, so starting off, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name is Tammy Martin. I have two children, ages 21 and 24. One's a nurse and one's going to Boston University and going to be going into law school. I'm also married. On a professional side, I started off in banking. I was a teller. I moved up to, within 16 years, I moved up to be an assistant vice president for a branch administrator. With that being said, I was in charge of all the branches underneath me and also went through a merge. In that job, I was in charge of 49 plus people. I did evaluations, performances, audits within all the branches. There were 7 branches that I was in charge of, maintenance facilities. Anything that pertained to any of those branches were under me. I did all the scheduling and what sorts. Then I did take there was a little time when a family issue had happened and I had to take a leave. And then my daughter ended up doing public access in a municipality. And I ended up driving her. So I volunteered my time and started hearing everything that goes on within the town. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Maybe this is something that I want to try out down, maybe next, So after that happened, assessor's clerk came up in the town of Warren, and I tried out for that position and I went for it. And I learned a lot. I learned about Chapter 61, 61A, 61B, Bateman's exemptions, so many
All that
things.
good stuff.
A ton of good things. And I couldn't, originally I didn't know any of that stuff. So, going in there, I was really excited to learn all that. And then a Board of Health chair had come down to me and said, hey, Tammy, there's a full-time position opening. Would it be something you'd be interested in? But at the same time, there was a town accountant position that was opening at the same time. So obviously, considering my background in banking, accounting, I felt would be more my league. So I wanted to go up with the accountant position. So I went up with the town accountant position. I ended up getting that. Little bit did I know that I was going to be the chief procurement officer at the same time. So I was like, what's procurement? I learned that pretty quick because we ended up having to do highway bidding, and I had to go out for the bids on combis and central register. So I did all that. And also in the meantime, down in the select board, the executive secretary had left, so we had a different secretary in there. And I said that in the process, until they found someone that was helpful, I would start doing the queries, and I would do the query checks and the physicals, and I'd set all that up. Then after about a year and a half, we ended up getting a town administrator, and I worked very closely with him. He came in and asked me a lot about financing and stuff like that. And then next thing I was helping him, he was showing me like what he does, like feasibility studies, and he had gone out for a ton of grants, and I was lucky to be part of it with him. So I learned a lot, and I was like, he gets to wear all the hats. He gets to do everything. I think I want to be a town administrator. So I ended up flying, and I got a town administrator position, and I love being a town administrator because I get to wear all those hats and be part of the community, and just I like to see things grow and partake in anything that I can within the community. So.
Can you talked a little bit about it, but can you share some of your leadership, some of the positive and maybe some of the negative things you've had over the years?
Sure. So when I was start with the banking industry, because I was in charge of, like I said, 49 people. So, the worst part of obviously HR is having to get rid of someone, and I've had to do that. It's not fun. Um, but with that being said, I was in charge of the employees. Scheduled them, they reported to me. Same thing where I'm at right now. I have employees that report to me, and I do our day-to-day activities. We do communication, everything like that. So, are you looking for my approach or just like,
I mean, well, I guess a couple of different things. I guess, what is your style?
okay, so my style?
And, some things that you've dealt with and leadership type where, was a pro, and then sometimes where it was a con where, you had to deal with maybe an employee or an issue that wasn't going correct.
Okay, so I would say my style is definitely more directive. I do not micromanage. I like to have transparency and let my team know exactly what we're looking for, where we're going. Like for example, when we go and I have meetings every month with the assessor, treasurer, and the accountant. So I know where the new growth is going, and I know. So I'm not sure. I think yours is elected, but mine are appointed, except for the assessors. So I am in charge of the treasurer and the accountant. So we do have our monthly meetings and we talk about all that. And if we have any goals we want to talk about, I'll let them know, like our next meeting, I'm looking for this, this, and that. And then they will come prepared and bring all that to me. As a negative, there are personnel issues that I do have to deal with. Um, Again, I usually do that. So I always believe everything's in the way your approach is, how you approach things. You got to be kind, but stern too. I always say you start off saying something good, like, you're doing a real great job, but this incident happened, talk about the incident, and then always leave it off. So they're not going away leaving on a negative side. I don't think that's a good approach at all. I always think you need to let them feel a little uplifted, but also know that they're not, if something's wrong, then you need to make sure that you tell them that something's wrong. Um, the worst part, like I said, is when having to fire somebody. I've done it before and it's not, you have to do it sometimes. So, right, if they're not doing the right thing, you got to do it. It's part of it.
Absolutely. What would you consider the most difficult problems facing small towns like Granby or Warren?
Yeah.
Not such a big town.
Um, Definitely the revenue. We don't have, I know where I'm at right now, 90% of our revenue comes from real estate. So where else are we going to get revenue? That's the big question, right? So if you're asking me that, I would say you have to do grants. You have to do grant writings and bring in some money from that. That helps our towns out. You can do it with the schools. You can do it with, for example, I brought in $100,000 park fund grant. Barry wanted a park, so I went on the bid website and I had the representatives come in, we talked about it, and then we went out for a park fund grant, got $100,000, and we had some ARPA fund money that we used, so we have a $200,000 fund grant, but with the park fund grant, I had to wait for we got accepted. I had to go to some mandatory complete workshops to make sure that we ended up getting it. And then they had to come out to the site. So there's a lot of work you have to do within the grants, but it's well worth it because it comes into the town and it helps the town grow. I mean, the park that we're replacing is it's very old. So they're very much looking forward to it down there, and it's going to be a good project. So
based on your comments, can I assume that you have experience with the grant writing?
yes, I love grants. One of my favorite parts of my job. So
Right. We like those.
Yeah, everybody likes grants.
I get very excited when I hear, oh, you got awarded such and such. I had an earmark grant, and I tried to get we need a fire station. I tried to get a fire station. I got a fire pickup truck. I was okay with that too. So $70,000 earmark fire truck, pickup fire truck. So I was like, oh, hey, I'll take that. That's just as good.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this already. And what would be, if you could give an example of an employee that may have failed at something, someone that you're that person's supervisor, and you had to deal with them and him or her, and how did that go? If there
So
was one, I'm assuming there
I'm
has.
sure there's probably plenty. I just got to think of one on the spot. So let's see. I can give you some with definitely with banking. if, for example, if someone comes in with a check, you have to know the rules and regulations like Reg CC. During Christmas time, we used to always say, really make sure you pay attention to, the checks that are coming in, because there's a lot of falsifying checks that are coming through because it's Christmas time. And there was this one check that it came through and the employee put it through, and they really should have known it was not a legit check. And it ended up bouncing, and then we had to go out for the money, and I had to talk to the employee and let them know that, I took out the memos because we had memos going out because it was a big deal, especially in the banking industry. You got to make sure, this is money we're dealing with, and it's lots of it. So you need to make sure you're following the rules, the Reg CCs, and make sure we're following everything. And I did. I had to actually ended up giving an oral and told them, you need to start making sure you're following the procedures and policies. And when this comes out, you need to pay attention to these checks, because this was you could tell it was definitely a phony check. So you got to be very careful. That's what, like I said, with banking.
So you've given us some of your strengths in the conversation we've had. What would you say a weakness of yours would be
So
that you might have to work on to move forward?
So I'm going to say that my work-life balance for business and personal, I tend to take on. I'm very ambitious about my growth in my career, and I take it very serious. And if I'm on a project, I really can get lost in my project, like just focused. And then I sometimes will end up staying a lot later, and getting home is very, get my husband, poor husband, but getting home is very hard. I put a lot of time in, and I've always been like that. So I always say, Tim, you got to find a way to, what to do. So I have been trying to work on this. I take a list out and I do my priority of what I'm going to do throughout the day. But I don't know, as a town administrator, you can't really make up your day, because every time you make up your day, someone's going to come in. Because like I said, you wear a lot of hats, whether it's a resident coming in or an employee coming in, or you got a water break down the street that you have to make sure everyone's getting taken care of and everybody knows the ins and outs. So you have to make sure that you're always, up and on it. And then you're like, oh, well, this grant, I need to get this in by April 14th. Well, I'm not going home until I get that grant in. So.
So your weakness is you work too much.
Yeah, but yes, I guess. Oh, yeah.
It's not a bad thing. A lot of us do it.
I guess it comes with the territory, right? So.
Sometimes it does.
And so, and as a town administrator, you are in the public's eye. And even so that, the select board has a lot of say in what happens in the town.
Mhm.
Sometimes the town administrator would come under criticism for what's being done. So, and fortunately, unfortunately, we live in an age of technology and Facebook and things like that. So at times things might get, posted on a Facebook page or something like that. And where, it might be a favorable comment towards yourself or towards the select board or towards the town. And I'm not asking how you'd answer that, but how would you deal with that though?
So I have learned, in being in the political eye, you just cannot take things personally. You have to let it, I hate to say this, but let it roll. You have to let it roll, and realize that sometimes, I know in my mind that obviously not all this stuff is facts or factual. Some of the things that you see on Facebook and online they're not real, and they're not true. So that's how I deal with that. And I continue on with my day. I try not to, I don't, I will not let Facebook or anything out there take anything away from me when it comes to my current position, because I know in my mind that I'm doing 100% the right thing for the town. And I know the select board also has the right interest for the towns. And I always say, in my town administrator's report, I'll make comments, if you ever want to see me, I have an open door policy, so anyone can come up and see me if they have any discussions or they want to ask. I would never, ever write anything on Facebook, because I think that's unprofessional, and I would never put that out there. So I think that's how you handle that one. You just have to realize that people are going to talk on social media. They're going to say things, and you just got to make sure that in the select board meetings that transparency is being held, and you're trying to do everything we can to make sure that we are doing the right, by informing the residents of what is really going on.
Okay. You want to go, Dave? Yeah, another one, go ahead. And, right now, obviously, we're, as you may know, and it's budget time.
Yes.
We start to deal with our departments and their budgets. Um, how would you deal with an employee that had a budget problem? And, he or she may have lacked I think maybe the communication necessary to let you know what was going on in the budget.
So I will tell you with my department heads, I talk with all my department heads even before they usually get to FinCom. So if they were to come to me and tell me they had a budget issue, I would ask them. I'm very big on communication. It's very key to me. I would ask them, why is there a problem and what is the problem? Now, if we don't have the funding, then we just don't have the funding, right? So I'd have to understand what type of problem they were having with their budget
Okay.
and work through it with them, because if there's a problem, we got to find a solution. So
Good. So, give you a scenario. Obviously, in any place of business, whether it's private, public, there may be some employees that just tend to, if you will, bump heads
mhm.
on that case, and that something like that comes to you where an employee happened to complain about another employee, and maybe that employee is that person's supervisor. How would you deal with that?
Well, I've actually dealt with that recently. So I take them both in the room and I have them basically say it in front of each other, and we talk about it, and I let employee A say what's going on and what they feel is going on, if they're feeling like they're not being appreciated or whatnot. And then I let the other employee explain what they are expecting, or maybe they're saying that they're expecting this person to do more than what they're supposed to be doing. And then we come up with a solution and we figure it out. And it's all in the room. Just bring them both the parties in, and usually by the time you're done, you can solve it out and get on the same page. And I hate to say playing the sandbox nice, but playing the sandbox, and let's all get along because we're all here for the right reason. I've never really had an issue. Once we get everyone together, they always usually can solve their problems.
Okay.
So
So in your cover letter, I noticed you made a comment in regards to ensuring a transparency and effective governance.
Mhm.
Can you just give us examples of how you would step into that role and move forward on it?
for transparency and the
Yes.
governance, well, I believe everything should be transparent. And like I said, open book. If somebody comes into my office and they want to look at something, as long as it's not a confidential, being like an employee issue, whatnot, right there, it's right there. It's pure access. And you're talking about like my role and like how I would start off, or
Yeah. What's your thought process in managing town departments and things of that nature?
Yep. So what I do right now is I have meetings with my department heads, and we meet usually on a monthly basis. Like I said, my finance on a monthly basis. And I talk about everything they're doing. What are they doing? Where are we at? Do you need any assistance from me? I'm very open, and my communication is very, like I said, that's key. And I think your approach and what you're doing, you all have to know what you're doing. So we're all getting the same, we want our town to grow. We want it to thrive, right? So if there is any issues or any problems, we need to make sure we're resolving them. I need to make sure that I know what's going on in the loop, because I'm the person that deals with the day-to-day activities. And then I need to make sure that you as a select board know what's going on, because it would be awful if someone came up to, the chair and was like, hey, did you know this was happening? And you're going to look at me and say, Tammy, why didn't you tell us about this? I just got blindsided. So I think it's very important that me communicating with the staff, knowing what's going on day to day, and also me communicating with you as well, letting you know what's going on and keeping the public informed as well. It's very important that the public knows what's going on. and being transparent.
Thank you.
What do you find some of the challenges, and I guess, and what do you know about Granby as of now? And not to really put you on the spot, but what do you see some of our challenges being, and how can you impact those challenges in a positive manner?
So I did notice that you were close to your levy on your finances. So that's always something to make sure you always want to make sure you look at, make sure you're in a balanced budget. But that being said, I do know the town has a lot of open space and there's a lot of farming and agriculture. So there's really not a lot of room probably for revenue. So again, I would go back to, I hate to say, but I don't know how many grants, do you have a lot of grants that come into this town?
No, we do not.
Yeah, so grants are a big key. I think that's important. Look at what's out there for taxes and make sure you're really capturing all your new growth to help bring in also revenue. That's huge. Your tax title foreclosures, how are those? Are those?
We don't.
You don't have any of those, or
I mean, there may be some, but if they're fuels, I mean,
Limited.
Yeah.
limited town. Yeah.
okay, that's good.
So now to where we get into, it's not based off of, tax liens or something like that. So
Yeah. I did notice you had some businesses around here. We can always bring in businesses and see where we can go from there. I'd have to really get into, obviously, if I came over, I'd have to really get into the history and the background as to what has happened in the last 5 to 10 years, so I can see exactly like a picture of the town of Granby to move forward. But obviously, I would do anything I can to help us grow and bring in as many grants as I can and just thrive to bring in that revenue. Revenue is key because, schools is also a big budget, right? But also that's schools and the police and fire and the, public works, DPW, that's what makes people want to come to the town of Granby. You don't want a feeling school or a feeling police department. You want to make sure everything stays up because that helps us as a town continue to grow and it makes people want to come to the town of Granby. Granby, we want to be a destination. We want people to come and say, oh, I want to go to Granby because of, I don't know if you do concerts and stuff like that in the summer, how your parks and recs is. But you got to look at all that stuff. What can we do to bring people to our town and, make this, like I said, a destination for people, not just a pass through.
right, and I think that's, a lot of people may feel that way too in town, that we're just a pass through.
Yeah.
Whether you go into, you want to work in Springfield, or you're going to Northampton, or you're going to Amherst, depending where you live. It's almost that bedroom community, if you will,
Right.
and that's what kind of people look at. But on the same part, some people like that piece about
Yeah.
Granby. That's why they move here. So, but with the same, as you said, I think you talked about Warren and about what their percentage is. Taxes are based on residential. That's the same way in Granby.
Yeah.
Right around the same figures, really.
Well, okay.
If not, Granby might even be a tad bit higher.
I think
So,
you guys are higher
yeah.
than Warren.
So,
Can you tell us a little bit about procurement laws, maybe what you've been involved in
Yep.
with that end of things?
Yep. Recently, I just did the assessors needed a reclass valuation. The state makes you do it every 5 years. So we went out for bid on that. And that was one of the ones that I've done. That was one that I did recently. In Warren, I always did the highway biddings, the bituminous concrete. And we also had one for windows project that we had done. I did one for plumbing. We had the CARES Act money. We had plumbing. We had done all like the hand free. So we did all the bathrooms. I've done I've done feasibility studies for procurement. So I'm very familiar with RFPs and invitation for bids. Right now, I will say in Barry, where I'm at, we're doing FERCog. They don't usually take Worcester, but Chapter 90, the representative had said he had suggested us go out that route, so we did, and it's not a lot of money, but it's really good to make sure you're doing, like the OSHA. You need to have the bonds and the bids. You have to have everything in order. You need to make sure that you are to the T when you're doing procurement, so nothing comes at us. So
Very good.
I do have my certificate, the MCPPO
I
certificate
did
as
see
well.
that, yes.
I guess one of the big questions, why do you want to be the town administrator in Granby? And, what do you see, if so, your future in Granby being?
So the town of Granby, I believe the town where I'm at now, in town of Granby, I believe Granby has more of the vision that I have in my frame of mind. I also love the fact that you are agriculture and open space and the farm stands. I love that. I love this town. It was an opportunity that came up. Wasn't necessarily looking to move, but when I saw this come up, I was like, oh, this is once in a lifetime, right? Like Chris has been here for 23 plus years, and you've been very fortunate to have a town administrator that has been so long. And honestly, if I am fortunate enough to get this position, I'm hoping to be the same way, 15 plus years. I want to stay a long time. I don't want to be doing this.
Um, yeah, obviously, Warren has a select board as well.
Yes, Warren does.
So, and just as many select boards, Granby is on a 3-year
Yeah.
rotation. But every year there can be a different person
Mhm.
representing the board.
Yes.
And I think actually over the past 8 years, it's been that way. There has been the same board.
Mhm.
And just, moving forward too, it won't be, our chair, Crystal Dufresne, has already said that, she won't run again,
Yeah.
for her upcoming election in the spring. So it means that there'll be a different member on the board as well.
Mhm.
And I've made it known too, so just so that you're aware of it. This is my 8th year as a select board member, and I won't be running again the following year.
Mhm.
But with that said, I think it's good information, for someone who is considering, to be our town administrator. And my question is, how do you deal with that when there's, sometimes it's just that turnover and you got to work with different people, it could be every year.
So I'm going to say that I think anytime a board of selectmen comes and runs, I think it's a pleasure, and you're volunteering your time. So thank you for that, right? That's a very great thing in a community. And you know what? I don't have a problem with people changing the boards. It's going to happen. We're all here for the same reason, right? To make Granby the best place it possibly can be. And I try. Even right now we have one that's leaving, one that's coming on, and I don't know if he's going to come on or not. There's no competition right now, but he's great too.
Yeah.
I get along with everybody for the most part. So honestly, I understand that people change and they go through it. And I've been dealing, when I was actually in Warren, I actually had different boards, and they were all great. They're all great members. So I never had a problem with the select board, and they were always my boss. So
Okay.
Good. So you mentioned if you were to get this position, that you'd like to stay on for a prolonged period of time.
absolutely.
So with that said, if you were sitting in the chair making the decisions now, where would you like to see the town of Granby in 5 years?
I would like to see the town of Granby continue to grow. See where the townspeople want it. I mean, because you said that a lot of people do like the open space, and I like the open space as well. See if they want to still continue in that way. But I believe we need to also probably, every town needs to bring in more revenue, and maybe there's a park you guys want. What are we looking for? What are your wants for the town of Granby? What does the residents want for the town of Granby? That's important to me. What does the school maybe need? I don't know, but it's something that we would work on together, make a plan, just like how you do a capital plan. Maybe we do a forecasting plan as to see what do we want to see happen in 5 years, and we make that come through. It's a lot of hard work and dedication, but in the end, it's so worth it.
If you're given the opportunity to be, the town administrator, I guess, what would be your time frame just to start?
So I do have a contract, and I have to give a 90-day notice, and I would obviously want to honor that. And plus being budget season, I would not want to leave them in any binds, because I would never do that. So it have to be 90 days.
You are full-time in your position currently.
Yes, I mean, I'm Fridays. I could come here if you need me on a Friday for me to get going on it. I could do that in the process.
So you'd be open to a little bit of more time. Possibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you need me to do that, I could definitely do that.
And I think you kind of touched on this in the beginning of your interview. But what brings you joy?
Brings me joy. Joy, having a place that I love to come to work brings me joy. My family brings me joy. I like to be a happy person. I'm optimistic about a lot of things. I don't like negative. I don't like drama. So that's what brings me joy.
And I'm sure you know, or maybe you don't know, our assistant town administrator is retiring as well, within probably the next month or so.
Hmm.
So, eventually we'll be looking for a replacement for her as well.
Okay.
So just, again, this is just information that what, I don't know if you're aware of, but I want to make sure that you are aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of changes going on.
It happens in towns. So
We're in the process of hiring a new fire chief,
okay.
building commissioner.
Well,
So, as a select board, we have our hands full right now. I was
Yes,
looking
you
for a
do.
town administrator too, so. Yes.
Well, I think I've covered most of it. I think I've heard everything I need to hear, and you've been very direct. Thank you for answering all the questions thoroughly.
And thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in too.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do have a few. I guess. What are you looking for in a town administrator?
Well, everything that we've asked, obviously.
Yeah.
We would like to see the town move forward also.
Yes.
Not at a rapid speed, because small towns obviously go a little slower than a lot of larger cities and towns.
Mhm.
But I like your idea of sitting down and coming up with, say, a 5-year plan of moving forward.
Yeah.
One of the things that always comes to the forefront is our water and sewer, which we have here on 202, but it stops. And we also have it to Morgan Street to a certain point and stops there.
Yeah.
So that's something that always comes up, because we're always looking to possibly bring more business in.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to say, we'll take your business on, but we're going to put you on a septic system and a well.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
want that running water and sewer. So that's something that has been on our plate, that's been discussed. Glenn's probably been discussing it for years. Me, not so much, because I'm the newest board member, but we did go over some things, recently, and tried to make something happen. We just were short on time. So that's something else we would, possibly like to look for grants for.
Say maybe there's some grants out there for that.
Yeah.
That we can find.
So,
Yeah, I mean, really for myself, I tend to focus a lot on experience
Yeah.
and knowledge for the position. Also, I think someone who's a good communicator,
Mhm.
very helpful in this position, as well as, I look for someone that is a leader,
Yeah.
but can work well with other people,
Mm.
but understands the importance of being the leader
Yes.
and taking on that responsibility and not shying away from it.
Exactly. That's all.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you
know we
very
both
much.
appreciate it coming in. I know, like I said, I think we wait until our next meeting, when Crystal's back, and then we can discuss this further. I know she's gonna take the time to review, the recording, And we did say, you know, if Crystal had any follow-up questions on her part, so we would have another interview just so we're being fair. But I was very pleased with a lot of her responses that she had. So
It seems as though she has quite a bit of experience in municipality and things, so I was pleased also.
So again, I think we'll wait till Crystal's back in our next meeting, and we'll put that on our agenda to discuss that. So with that said, that's the only thing we had on our agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And me being the only other person, I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion at this time?
No discussion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, good. Thank you.